Restoration and the antiques business go hand in hand. Discerning dealers depend on the skills of expert artisans.
Time to see if all my hard work's paid off.
This time, we'll be looking back at our spookiest, most terrifying restorations.
It was awful. It was grotesque.
Michael and Maria get creeped out by a fairground Frankenstein monster.
Look at this.
Oh, my God, he's alive.
Taxidermist Chris gets his teeth into a scary Victorian predator.
I've worked on a lot of weird and wonderful objects, but nothing quite like this.
And Nick puts his neck on the line, trying to restore a grotesque carnival mask.
Yeah, that's all right.
We just lose a light bulb.
These restorers are using all their years of craft and skill
It's an old way of doing things. I think it brings so much to a piece.
with jaw-dropping results,
Wow, Tim! Wow!
turning forgotten junk
I was not expecting this!
into sought-after treasure.
Pieces that are macabre, dark, can be incredibly beautiful.
The restorers team of artisans are often tasked with saving spooky and scary items.
Crocodile's getting his gnashes back.
And though they may be repulsive or macabre,
Wow. It's horrid. I know, it's horrible, isn't it? I know, it's great. I think the kids would love it.
these creepy curiosities can have a strange fascination.
He usually has a sign on him saying, "Do not touch me or I'll haunt your dreams."
Making them highly collectible.
Oh, my God.
So, some gruesome stuff in here.
Wow.
And providing spine-tingling thrills perfect for Halloween.
Antiques, objects and art that have a macabre, dark feeling and/or past or association. All of those things have their place in the antiques world. It can be anything and everything, from a small piece of history in a little glass box from a museum, all the way through to full-size fake taxidermy and monsters. All of those things are a real attraction to pretty much every antique dealer.
One of Drew's most terrifying finds was an old fairground piece that had been gathering dust for years. It was badly damaged and no longer worked, so he invited mechanical automata restorers Michael and Maria Start to his workshop. And they had no idea what they were about to be faced with.
We're at the workshop, and
Yeah.
that means it's probably
What does
going to
it
be
mean?
big.
Hello.
Hi, Drew.
Hi, Drew.
You all right? You all right?
Hello.
So I've got something
Gosh.
rather interesting for you today. It's your sort of thing, but just on a grand scale. So, if you give me a hand, Michael, and undoing this, we have this rather wonderful
Oh.
Frankenstein, which is just phenomenal. 1960s fairground, sideshow. It's completely scratch-built. It's rough as you like.
Well, it's incredible. I mean,
I think it's the most wonderful thing.
Yeah, I really like this.
And then behind you, Michael, if you can unwrap that, that is the motorised section. So he would have been sat, you can see where the body mounted on the top on that square.
Yeah.
He would have been sat and then stood up, so it would have been like this, I think. He'd have been like that, and then he went... like that. I think it's a bit of that.
That's monstrous.
The Frankenstein story of a scientist creating a man from body parts and bringing it to life with a lightning bolt dates back to 1818. And it has gripped the public imagination ever since. This life-size version of the monster was created for a travelling fun fair in the 1960s. It was built by Jim Tattersall, a famous ventriloquist who built his own puppets and mechanical creatures to amuse and thrill the public.
So, I mean, it was not a lot of money. It was under £1,000 as it stands. What I'd love to see it is fully functioning, have a plug or an adapter or something, plug it in, turn it with an on and off switch somewhere. If you can do that, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah,
But what we'll do is we'll get this shipped up to you, and then it's over to you guys, really.
Lovely.
Okay.
Yeah?
Exciting.
All right,
yeah.
OK.
Thanks,
Thank
Ruth.
you very much.
Brilliant.
First thoughts when Frankenstein was revealed was just how corpse-like and decayed this thing looked. It was awesome. I mean, he's truly an awful-looking object, especially disembodied like this, the head's off, and it looks like rotten flesh.
I thought Drew had lost his mind. It was awful. It was grotesque.
Despite their concerns, Michael and Maria accepted Drew's challenge, and Frankenstein was sent up to their workshop in North Scotland, where they started with a forensic examination.
OK, let's spin him around.
Oh, he's nifty on his wheels, isn't he?
With the monster assembled, they examined the head.
Oh, look at that. That's interesting. It's just like a ventriloquist head.
But some of the construction doesn't seem to make sense.
There's coat hanger wire, spare empty holes, strings and springs. I'm going to have to make a drawing and see if we can unravel all this.
Having checked out the monster's brain, the doctors want to test out if there are any vital signs in its body.
Bring me to life. I want to get up.
Oh, anything
Oh,
happening?
my God, he's doing something.
OK, you all right?
Oh, my God, he's going up. Oh, no.
Oh, no, hang on, I'm going down again. The gearbox is gone.
Has
I can
it?
hear the motor going, but there's no movement at all from the gearbox now.
Oh,
Yeah,
so he's broken then.
well and
mate.
truly broken. Here it comes. It's a boy.
Shall we call him Frank?
Yeah.
They've opened the body up to reach the broken motor,
So is this an 80s motor?
Yep.
only to find a previous restorer has been in before them.
These motors were super high quality. They were aero quality, made by a really famous old British engineering company that made aero engines and things. These were mega. These should not have broken. Oh dear, look.
What?
The teeth are really mashed. Just there, there, and there. What do we think caused this? I mean,
Well, you think someone sat on Frank's lap
I think
for a photograph.
yeah. And somebody else switched him on. And he went to stand up, and because of the leverage of those legs, amplified the weight, and the only thing that could break was the gearbox.
While Michael orders a new gearbox, Maria gives Frankenstein some dental repairs.
Go. All right, now, if you can just have a rinse and you're done.
After nearly 60 years, the monster's papier-mâché head is showing its age and needs some vital repair work.
That's just wallpaper paste, salt to stop it going mouldy, and a little bit of this special glue to make it really sticky. Now, I've got a great supply of different paper for papier-mâché. I never throw away an interesting paper. Got a lovely paper bag here. Got some really good hard card. Some pie boxes. You never know what's going to come in useful. For this, I think I'm going to stick with this strong brown paper. So I soak it really well in the glue. That makes it really nice and pliable. And then just start the long, slow process of building up the layers. Yeah, that looks so much neater and stronger and like it's just going to stay where I want it to be.
Once Maria's strengthening papier-mâché surgery has dried, Michael can rewire the mechanisms that control the movements of the face.
So I bolted in here some servos, 2 servos, one for the eyes, one for the mouth. They're all over the place in there because there's no flat surface, there's no right angle surface, and we're kind of fixing to papier-mâché, laminated paper.
A servo motor is a self-contained electrical device often used in robotics. It can rotate parts of a machine precisely and smoothly.
And I can control these servos with this little gadget. It lets you open and shut eyes or mouths just with a turn of a button. Maria, come and see this. Look at this.
Oh my God, he's alive.
Do you want to see the mouth as well?
Yeah.
That's really good, isn't it? And full closure as well. Go on,
Really bite?
No, hang on.
Oh my God, it hurts.
The monster's face was back to life, but it was going to take something more fiddly than a lightning bolt to get his body moving again. We're celebrating and looking back at some of our most haunting Halloween-related restorations carried out by the salvage hunters artisans.
It's really frightening.
These restorers spend decades honing their craft, applying their skills to saving everything from beautiful antiques.
I just need it brought back to life.
Brought back from the dead.
You're the man for the job, Ray, you can do it.
To the downright sinister.
Not what you'd expect to see running up the middle of a skeleton.
Strange and scary objects can have a mysterious thrill. And items that appear to move by themselves have an extra scary appeal.
Oh, God. That's fantastic.
In Scotland, Michael and Maria were making good progress on a life-size mechanical Frankenstein monster made for a 1960s fairground show. Maria was doing some final touching up of its papier-mâché face, while Michael was installing the new motors and a counterweight for balance.
OK, I think we're now ready to test and see if he's going to stand up. Maria, come and see. I'm going to test the motor for the first time. Here's our remote control, and... Wow.
Great sound, isn't it? That creaking.
Yeah, it's doing well, isn't it?
He's standing up.
If we got everything right, when he sits down, he should stop.
Yay.
Phew.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. So all that's left to do now is to assemble the different parts of the body and then make them all work together. It's exactly the same problem that Dr. Frankenstein had.
Taking custody of the broken-down fairground Frankenstein was a monster undertaking for Michael and Maria. Once complete, they returned to Wales to hand him back to dealer Drew.
We need to go and set it up in Drew's shop now.
Can't wait to see his reaction.
Yeah, I can't wait. Once the power goes in...
Will he be scared?
He'll be terrified.
Hello.
Hello, Drew.
Hi, Drew.
How you doing? All right?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good to see you. Right, I know what's underneath here, but I'm very keen to see what he looks like now. Let's have a look, please.
Here we go.
Oh, my God. My God, he is terrifying, isn't he?
That's the right reaction.
Well, he still looks like he's made of bits of corpse, which is exactly how he should look. But we've had to work on the mechanism completely.
Can we see him working?
Sure.
Michael has given him life. Are you ready?
I am. I'm a bit scared, to be honest with you. That is horrible, isn't it? It's meant to be, but oh my God. He's looking at me.
When Michael and Maria first saw this monster, it was in a sorry state. The head was beaten up, the automata functions for the face didn't work, and it could not stand up. Michael installed a new old stock motor to power the legs, adding a counterweight for balance and support. Maria mended the busted head, restoring shine to the eyes and teeth to the mouth. And a set of new servos hardwired to a control box meant this 1960s sideshow star was fit to terrify once more.
Add sound effects and a bit of smoke and a bit of dark, and that's screaming, isn't it? So we've got a name, we've got a known maker, we know age, so value-wise, where are we?
I think he's easily worth, as a complete working act, 8,000 to 10,000.
It's wonderful. Thank you very much. It is something that I'm very proud of to have a small association with, anything to do with Showman. I just think it's so interesting. But this is museum quality, and it works. And that makes all the difference. That really does make all the difference.
Creepy artifacts can have a special appeal, bringing with them a chilling atmosphere all of their own.
It's got a real sense about it, and it's dripping in history. That in itself is worth owning, isn't it? For a few £100.
Based in Northamptonshire, Chris Elliott has 50 years of experience in taxidermy and is no stranger to working on weird and wonderful animals. When dealer Mary Swallow came across an especially petrifying piece, she knew Chris had the right skills for the job.
Hi, Chris.
Hi there, Mary.
Come in.
Thank you.
So, Chris.
Oh, my goodness, wow. Come on, let's have a look. Oh, wow, Mary, an old taupe.
Oh, it's a taupe shark.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This is very old, you realise that?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, a good 100 years plus.
How do you tell that?
The fact that the taxidermy is a bit primitive by the shape, it's just basically been stuffed.
OK,
It
I was
hasn't
going to
been
ask
put
what you
on
meant
a-
by primitive, but
Yeah,
yeah.
an anatomically correct body or anything like that. It's just been skinned and packed out, so to speak. I haven't seen one before, and I think this is a very unusual piece.
It's certainly striking, isn't it?
It's a one-off, yes. Repairs that I can see from this
That's
round
quite
the
bad,
gills
yeah.
and round the eyes all needs restoring. But I see it finally going into a nice display.
Yes.
So getting rid of this, keeping the wires, this can be built into a base and then a protective case round it. Basically, because you don't want people fiddling about with it,
No.
breaking things. And obviously that end, you've got some very sharp
They
teeth.
are really sharp.
Yeah, but I think the end result could look really quite interesting.
Yeah, it's going to look amazing. Chris has got to be really careful. The shark is obviously old. It looks old. It needs a lot of work doing on it, but it needs to be done to a really high standard. Paid £150.
To be honest with you, I probably would have bought it for that. Just purely because it's so unusual.
Brilliant.
It's a one-off and it's so old, it's worth preserving and giving it another new lease of life.
It's all yours. Bye, Taupe.
Thanks,
Chris.
Mary. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. When I first saw the taupe shark, it was sort of like a bit of a gasp and stepped back a bit. I thought, oh, my goodness, this is some sort of horror. Now, the fear with sharks is always going to be there, but this one, particularly because it had shrunk and its teeth were sticking out, it looks even that much more scarier. But it didn't detract from the fact that it was very, very old and very primitive taxidermy.
Once Chris had returned to his Northamptonshire workshop, he wasted no time getting the shark onto his workbench. He'd wrapped the fins in damp cloth overnight to see if they could be softened and straightened out.
There we go. It's softened up quite nicely. So I think I've got a chance of clamping these fins either side, just basically with bulldog clips on it, and leave that for a couple of days, take the board off and see how the fins have shaped up. And with a very light tissue paper and a backing glue, I can repair these frayed edges. Simple process. Find the right sized piece of veneer. I would put various bits on and basically some bulldog clips. That's it, simple as that.
The fins are left to dry out, and in the meantime, Chris turns his attention to the damage around the shark's gills.
That's better. We can get inside it now and see how the fish was actually filled. And if I... There we go. That coming out is basically a very hard, compact sawdust.
Chris uses a wood adhesive to glue the gills back in position. Once he's happy with the positioning, he has an epoxy filler putty, which he'll use to fill the cracks.
I'm not just going to smooth it just over the damage. I want to get some underneath it so as it's going to bond. And obviously with the strength of this stuff, once that's dried out, it will prevent any more cracking. Now this stuff dries really solid, but I can actually sand it and use a scalpel on it to thin it down. But we don't want perfection on this. It's lumpy bumpy, the thing, and that is fine. I'm going to literally leave it as that.
Chris may have filled in the cracks, but he still had much to do before this creepy creature was back to its fearsome best. We're looking back at some of our scariest and most gruesome restorations.
Oh, look at that, it's a boy.
Carried out by the talented team of Salvage Hunters Restorers.
Wow, Nick. Just a beautiful piece of work.
So, Chris?
When Mary brought this 100-year-old taupe shark to taxidermist Chris, it was tired and showing its age. Chris had repaired the frayed fins and filled in the cracks around the gills. His next challenge was to create a natural environment and display case for the shark to sit in. He'd replaced the plain wooden plank stand with a new MDF base that would form the bottom of the case.
This gives me the chance to be really creative, bringing the fish and a nice base together, which will turn the whole thing into a scene. So what I want to do is get a bit more undulating, a bit more dips and raises. It just make the base look as though it's a seabed and not just a flat surface.
A basic papier-mâché mix using PVA glue and newspaper will allow Chris to begin to build up the seabed effect.
Now I tend to do this as a just play it along and see how it goes. So I'm scrunching up a bit of paper and I will just literally press it on there, and as it starts drying, I can push it down. So we're starting to put a bit of shape into the base. It's taken away this flatness.
A couple of hours later, it's time to check the papier-mâché.
This has dried enough for me to start practicing colour in the rocks. Usually do it 2 or 3 times. As it dries out, I just try various options on it. My initial start is to see what it looks like with a basic grey colour, so it's going to tone with the fish. Literally, I'm just going to use watercolours, can use acrylics, even I mix up emulsion paints. Gives it a little bit of a sort of stippled effect, so the rock has got some shape to it.
Victorian taxidermists would traditionally use items from nature to build up their display, and Chris has a few ideas to make his seabed look more realistic.
I'm seeing the final display. Now we're starting to work on this, so I think the next stage would be to put some sand down and start burying a bit of broken shell in there, maybe a bit of seaweed on, just see what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is back to the PVA, going to spread this over. I'm going to take it up into the recesses so it looks like we've got, you know, a proper seabed. Yeah, we've got a bucket of dried out sand, and I'm literally going to scatter it. And also, along with just the sand, I will put some larger pebbles in. Tomorrow, when the PVA is dried, then I can just tone all the rocks in as I want and just throw on some more sand, and then I stand back in complete awe, or not.
After the newly formed base had dried out, Chris was ready for the finishing touches to the shark. Painting the skin to enhance its appearance, a technique used by Victorian taxidermists.
Just take all the flaky stuff off.
After removing old loose paints with wire wool, he mixes oil paints until he gets exactly the right shade of grey.
The original painting was quite rough. It was just a line of the grey going along here. Now, obviously, because I wire-walled it back, it's a lot lighter than it was. But what I'm going to do is just apply some, and then with a rolled up bit of old cloth, just lightly take it off.
As the layers of paint are blended in, the shark is beginning to take shape.
Much better. It's looking great. Of course, we're not quite finished. We've enhanced the base, and of course, I think the final frame on it will be getting a nice finish on the case itself. But I've got ideas with that, and I think that will bring the whole thing together.
With the shark and display case complete, Chris was ready to reveal the results of his work on the taupe shark. Mary visited his workshop in Northamptonshire, keen to see what he had done.
It's really important that Chris has managed to hang on to the Victorian authenticity of the shark. If he takes it too far with the restoration, it could end up just looking like a plastic shark. So I'm intrigued, slightly scared to see what he's come up with. Hi, Chris.
Mary, good to see you.
Good to see you too, and it's very good to see this. Come on, let's have a look. Whoa! Blimey! That's amazing!
Do you actually recognise him?
He's had a bit of a makeover, I have to say. He looks a lot more handsome. It's like so much better than I would ever have imagined. It's incredible. I love this kind of seascape you've done at the bottom.
You know,
it's still got age to it, hasn't it?
Yeah. I love the character of it, and I think it's brought it all out now.
You're an artist, I'd have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not just a simple case of just redoing the fish. You've created an artistic, amazing environment for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a stunning, stunning thing.
When it arrived at Chris's workshop, this taupe shark looked anything but lifelike and was crudely mounted on an uninspiring plank of wood. Chris had spent hours delicately restoring the shark's coloration and features, so it looked more realistic, and the seabed display scene he constructed recalled its natural habitat.
I don't think we'll see one like this again, that's for sure.
I don't think so.
Especially now he's been preserved and saved and he's happy in his new home. What I like the most about what Chris has done is that he's created this amazing environment for the shark. He's even gone to the effort of like building rocks, but it just looks so authentic, so genuine. What do you think if I said I wanted about 1,500 for it?
I don't see that as being unrealistic at all. In the right setting, I think it'd be worth every penny.
Brilliant news, thank you. I'm just over the moon with it.
I have enjoyed working on this purely because when I saw it initially, I just thought, I've never been brought anything like this before. This is a complete one-off, and I'll probably never see one again. So, yeah, I'm really, really happy with it.
Preserving strange and peculiar objects can be incredibly rewarding for artisans who have spent years perfecting their craft.
It's my new mate.
Being asked to work on these eclectic and mysterious objects rarely comes around.
Clean off that dirt and suddenly it's like, ting! It's that little gleam in the eye.
Based in Llandudno, Nick Elphick has spent 20 years as a fine artist and sculptor. One long-standing client is dealer Drew Pritchard,
Oh, yeah.
for whom strange and macabre items have a special appeal.
It's just fun. and it's mildly terrifying, which makes it even better.
When Drew came across one rare and grotesque item, he knew Nick had the expertise to restore it accurately.
Nick is a fine art sculptor, but he's also extremely good at repairing things. I can pretty much guarantee he's never touched one of these before. Here you go.
Blimey.
Nice piece of classical Roman sculpture for you.
God.
So this is a German 1960s, 70s carnival head from a German festival called Fasching.
No way.
So basically it's a German Mardi Gras just before Lent, and it's a thing to sort of take the mick out of people who aspire to be your better, I should imagine.
OK,
so this was probably a real person.
For centuries, street carnivals and festivals have celebrated important religious events, from Halloween on the eve of All Saints' Day to Mardi Gras. Across mainland Europe, huge handmade papier-mâché heads were part of these traditions. But their lightweight construction mean few survive for long.
Loads of repairs. The more I look at it, it's covered 1, 2, 3, 4,
they need hiding.
5.
This is an old repair over
They've
the
just
top.
slapped it on them.
What I'll do is I'll go over that with paper again, hide the original, and then and then paint.
What's that?
That's plaster of Paris. That's what you'd use to, in the old days, to fix broken arms, which I've got loads of.
What, broken arms?
Yeah, I've had lots of them.
This is your main thing. I'd like you to make something more of the neck. It did have underneath it at one time, like a tube. That bit there
I think I've seen these.
would be on your head,
Yeah.
right? And then there'd be a tube that sat on your neck with an open face, like this.
Yeah, amazing. So that's where your face will be.
Yeah. Oh, it's really comfortable.
That. It's an improvement, though, isn't it?
It is a big improvement, yeah. Thanks. It's going to be interesting to see what Nick does with this, because it's one of those pieces that's playful, it's interesting, it's different. People are going to immediately fall in love with it. I'll leave it to...
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. When Drew revealed this carnival head, I just saw this huge, crazy-looking, obscure head. It was in quite a bad state. There was a lot wrong with it. All its colours were all sort of, you know, faded, and it was quite dirty. Not something I'm used to restoring. So this was a really, really unusual one for me.
With Drew gone, Nick could begin repairs to the head. But first he needed to figure out how to give it a new neck.
It's got to be the right length. I'm going to measure it from mine. So I'm going to go from the shoulder to the top of the head. So obviously this neck then will be able to sit on the shoulders. What I'm going to do now is just get an idea of how big my head is and where this can sit. And this needs to sit inside this tube here. Just pull it through. I think that's nice and strong now.
With the template in place, it's time to see if this works, because at the moment, Nick's just guessing how the head was built.
Yeah, that's all right. Did we just lose a light bulb? Yes.
The next step is to build the neck using bandages and gypsum plaster, commonly called plaster of Paris. It's flexible to work with, but very rigid when set, so Nick can very accurately sculpt the new neck.
What I'm doing now is to sort of sculpt the actual neck in. I'm soaking half water, half PVA with some thin sort of tissue paper, and I can then just sculpt it and actually place it on to the actual piece. And what will happen is once this dries, it'll dry hard and light. So fingers crossed this all goes well.
Based in North Wales, artist and sculptor Nick has been tasked with restoring a creepy papier-mâché head made for a carnival.
Oh, I don't know.
While Nick continued his painstaking work, Rebecca Pritchard was on a mission to research the head's origins. She visited Mahogany Carnival in West London to meet Clarice Solandi, an artistic director with decades of experience making costumes for the Notting Hill Carnival.
I need to find out more about the provenance of our carnival mask. I'm really hoping that Clary can give me some pointers today to verify where it's from, the age, just all the stuff that excites us in the antique trade. Well, I can definitely say I'm in the right place here. As you know from the photographs I sent you, we've got an amazing, gruesome, vintage carnival head.
This wire piece here is one of the traditional approaches to making carnival costumes with wire. So this actually could be the type of thing that could be inside of your head. And sometimes what they would do is they would cover this in chicken wire and then they would papier-mâché on top.
We believe that this could be German. In your opinion, what do you think?
I think it's French.
No way. So you're saying this isn't German?
I think it comes from Nice. I've sent the pictures to one of my friends. Her name is Annie Sidro, and she thinks it's one of her father's.
You're joking?
No, no, no. He is a very famous carnival designer. And this is a very ancient tradition, a French tradition of creating carnival heads. They're called grand têtes.
Grand têtes? Big heads?
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Nice Carnival is one of the biggest in Europe, and from the 1930s to 1980, Alexandra Sidro was one of its leading lights. In 1972, the theme was Japan, and Sidro created the main float, His Majesty in the Land of the Rising Sun. Drew's head was made for that feature, and this provenance will certainly increase its value.
I have now the designer of our head. I might even have a buyer now.
Well, I would think that Nice would be very, very interested in having something that goes way back then, and it was made by the hands of Monsieur Sidro.
So exciting. Wow. So exciting.
It is,
isn't it? It is.
Very
I feel all
exciting.
animated now. How was I supposed to know that I would leave today with a name of who designed our head? There's no maker's mark in there. There's nothing to tell us, but Clary knew.
Rebecca's research had added important information that could increase the value of the French carnival head. And back in Llandudno, Nick was feeling the pressure to get his restoration spot on. His next task was to repair the fragile head itself.
This is actually a really complicated bit. I'm quite nervous because I'm basically going to put layers of paper back over these damaged areas. I don't want to go mad with fixing every little bit, because that's a part of its charm, is this damage. But areas, especially these blobs that have been put in here with sort of thick papier-mâché, I'm just going to go over those. What I'm going to do is just place it over the eye. It basically will just disappear once you get it on there. And I'm just going to do a few different layers.
Layering the papier-mâché is a painstaking business. It's often harder to copy than to create.
So I've used a thicker bit of paper here because it needs this lip here where this creases, needs a bit of strength in there. And now what I'm going to do is go over that thicker piece of paper with a bit of tissue just to hide the line here. Go in here. See, so now that's just going to hide that paper line. Makes it less obvious.
After leaving the papier-mâché to dry out, Nick was ready to employ his fine art skills, repainting the head to make the old and new sections blend in.
I'm gonna just start matching some colours. And what I'll do is I'll dab them in as I'm slowly sort of bringing it all down, so I'm a little bit more organic, because this is all random, you see. So there's some orange here. At the moment, it looks a little bit highlighted because it's fresh. But I'll be going over it again and again and again, bringing it down, bringing the tones down. You know, as I bring this down, I can see the light changing on it. And I see that coming to the back here actually starts to go pinker. So I'm going to put a little bit of that pink in. And it's just fooling the mind into thinking that it's always been like that. It's quite a technical You've just got to get into the flow of it. Your head just starts to work after a while.
Nick is aiming for a very subtle restoration, so he doesn't want the colours too bold or bright. And now he must match the patched right eye perfectly to the left.
I'm always nervous doing an eye because the eyes are supposed to be the windows to the soul. When you look at a face, the first thing that you look at is the eyes. So these are really important to get right. So I need to get this curve right and everything sort of correct, and the colours have got to be right as well. I need to actually, I'll probably bring this black a little bit further down. It's a little bit too big. And I'll bring that back in slightly. You've got to know when you've made the mistakes.
With work on the head complete, Drew headed over to Nick's studio. Thanks to Rebecca's research, he knew it was more valuable than he'd originally thought, so it was vital that he was happy with Nick's restoration. When he first handed over this carnival relic to Nick, it was in bad condition. The missing neck meant it was unwearable, and it was riddled with structural and paintwork damage.
I'm really happy with what I've done, but I am a little bit worried about the neck. I've followed my instincts and gone down the route, you know, with this direction. I'm hoping that I'm right, so fingers crossed Drew's going to like it.
When I dropped it off at Nick's, it was, I think worse for wear is probably the best way to describe it. But also, it was pretty useless, and you couldn't really display it very well.
Drew! What do you reckon?
Wow. It sort of suits you.
Is it an improvement?
Yeah. Wow.
I made a nice stand for it. This was fun.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
So good, mate.
Thanks to Nick's work, this unique vintage head has a sturdy new neck, and its cuts and tears have been sympathetically repaired. Ready once more for Carnival, or as the ultimate trick-or-treat mask.
We found out exactly who made it.
Oh, really?
It was made in Nice.
No!
It was made by a family who are very famous for making this type of things, papier-mâché parade
No, you're
masks.
joking!
Yeah. This is the best bit. They might want it back.
No way,
No,
seriously?
no.
That's amazing. Why don't you try it on?
Yeah, go on then. Can you lift it on?
Yeah, go on then. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, here we go. You on.
There you go.
No way it fits.
I can see now.
It's an improvement.
It's good, isn't it?
Take that to Conway. Wear it in Conway.
There you go. You can take it off.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I got you to put it on. That's brilliant.
It's great. Great fun. It was worth a few hundred pounds, wasn't it, when we got it? I'd want a couple of grand for that now.
Really?
Yeah. Now it's bang on. I think £2,000 is actually selling it way too short. We have now an accurate attribution of who made that and exactly when. It's a rare survivor. It's worth real money.
Brilliant,
Thank you, mate.
Thank
Cheers.
you. I followed my heart and followed my instinct, and I was right with the style that I did. So I've made something, a piece of history, come alive again. You know, it's a real honour.